Well, we'll start. Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine O'Hare Rogers, and I am the Vice President and Compliance Officer with MARR. Most of you know who I am. Um, we just have a few things to talk about today, and I think we'll start with Jeff. But before we do that, if you haven't done so already, please go to the chat and put your name and the name of the organization that you're representing there. That would be great. Go ahead, Jeff. What would you like to talk about today?
Just very briefly, I'm happy to announce that MARR had record number of operators and a record number of homes. So it's as I was sitting in the office reflecting about the past 10 years, it's been an amazing journey, and happy that I was able to join some of the folks on this phone call and doing what we've accomplished. So everybody pat yourself on the back for that. And
So is this compared to other state affiliates?
we have the second largest, I'm sorry, the third largest. Florida has a larger amount, and then if you add both of California's together, you get more than what we have. But we actually have the third largest organization in the state.
Nice.
And by population, we're doing a wonderful job. I would say we're number one in terms of number of homes compared to the 10 million people we have here, compared to it's roughly 30 million in Florida and 40 million in California. So one of the other things I was going to talk about was fundraising. As we're all suffering through not getting our ARPA funding, and that might affect some of you folks out there. I was thinking about some ways of trying to generate some funds. I saw something on Facebook that got my attention, and it was for a home in Michigan somewhere where they said they identified specific rooms and things that you could buy. So it'd be like, if you want to donate $100, you can furnish the kitchen tool stuff. For $300, you could do something else. For $500, you could sponsor. So those are just a way that I think for those of you that have any time that they can devote to fundraising, that might be a way to productively use your time, get some funding for that.
Kind of like
Also,
adopting a
there's
home.
I'm sorry?
Kind of like adopting a home.
Yeah,
Somebody could
exactly.
adopt a home or sponsor a
You
resident.
can adopt mile marker 220 on Highway 75, or you can adopt the home in Ty's house. So then we also have golf tournaments. And one thing that I saw successfully here in Holland is they partnered with a couple of restaurants where they said 10% of the total check or 20% of the total check as of a specific day would be donated to the nonprofit. And that generated I think about $1,000 on their effort. It really doesn't take a whole lot of time to do that. You just need to make connections in your community for doing that. Uh, One other thing I'll cover real quickly. If you don't already know this, our levels have been changed a bit. The level one, level two, level three, level four has now been modified to make it consistent with the new ASAM designations. So it's going to be level one or type P as in peer run, level two or type M as in Mary as in managed. Type three is going to be supervised or S. And then type four is C, which goes to clinical. And so you may see some people saying, well, do you have a type M home or a type S home? And you go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Go back and look at that, and they'll be able to have a method for you to go back to your levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, is whatever you're familiar with.
For those of you that remember, we brought this up in October, November at the operator meeting, because
Right.
when we went to the conference, they had discussed at that time they want to get away from the numbers and start calling them a word instead. So
So the last thing, and this will be audience participation, Catherine. Somebody asked me yesterday, what do you do as an operator of a recovery residence? What do you do if a resident challenges a positive urine drug test screen? And they asked what are the NAR standards for that. The NAR standards simply says you have to have a policy in place, a written policy in place. But in terms of forming the elements of the policy, I was going to get some feedback from anybody that's on this phone call that's addressed this situation.
Yeah, I don't know how to raise my hand. I haven't seen the raise my hand thing. But my name's Sean. Sorry about this, everyone. Didn't mean to interrupt. I can tell you what we do in regards to that. If somebody tests positive, then we immediately give them another test. And after 2 positive tests, if they still, don't, if they still want to challenge us, then they have to leave the house, and then we send them to a lab and a clinic. That has never happened, though. I mean, ever in the 15 years that we've been doing this. But so we always give people 2 tests, and then if they still deny it, then they go to the lab.
Who pays for the lab test?
Well, we would pay it first with the caveat that if you are positive, then you have to reimburse us immediately.
Okay. Is that put in the agreement so they know that on day one that's okay, that's good. Yeah.
I had one other statement going back to what you were saying about raising funds. Something I've thought about for quite a while is why doesn't the state of Michigan and or the federal government raise the taxes on beer and alcohol? It has been since the 1970s since the federal government raised taxes on one or both of those.
That's above my pay scale.
Because that would generate a whole hell of a lot of money, especially since alcohol is the most destructive drug out there.
Are you generally familiar with what Public Act 2 funds are?
Somewhat.
Okay, because I don't know exactly when that got passed in Michigan. I want to say about 20 years ago, but it took a percent of PA2, Public Act 2. It took a certain percentage of all of the state revenue on liquor sales, and it was intended to be used for prevention, recovery, and treatment of people that suffer from substance use disorders. But for political reasons unknown to me, a big percentage of that money went to pay the Cobo Hall expenses for the renovation of Cobo Hall in Detroit.
Yeah, greed and corruption.
Yeah. And I viewed that as a pay-as-you-go kind of a tax, which is if you're going to be drinking alcohol, it's a user tax, right? It doesn't affect the general population, only those that use alcohol. So it's really equitable. It's been tried once, but that's beyond our power to affect. Maybe collectively we can by reaching out and asking for additional funding. But
well, if you ever want to have a discussion with me, just let me know.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know that Recovery Road, when we first do the testing, it's on our dime. But if someone does choose to challenge it, we then also do something similar by telling them, well, if you feel that strongly that the test is wrong and you truly believe that you should be clean, then we encourage them to get a second one, but then we tell them that they need to pay for it. And it's usually because 99 times out of 100, it's because they don't have any skin in the game. So they're like, well, of course, go ahead and just, test me again. You pay for it. And it's because they're trying to rig the system of that, knowing that they truly did fail. So between telling them that they have to pay for it themselves, and the other part is that a lot of times my team has a 10-minute conversation even before we do the first one to try to give them the opportunity to have some accountability. And many times we can already get the result even before the first test. And
So
that's
do you
usually how the Recovery
reimburse?
Road handles it.
Do you reimburse them if they test negative?
Well, interesting enough is we've never had someone decide, yes, I feel that strongly that the first test was bad, so I'm going to pay for it and prove that you're wrong. We just haven't had occasion where we were proven wrong. Or the test, I should say, was proven wrong.
Well, the operator in question came to me, and the facts were similar to what you said, Preston. But the guy tested positive for opioids and also THC. And he said, well, it was false positive on both, and directed the operator to some internet, I won't call it research, but some source that said, if you take this medication, the guy was taking like a dozen different medications, you can produce in a combination with another medication that the guy was taking, you can produce false positives. But he was stymied by the fact that nothing produces false THC positives. So,
and a lot of this is why my team chooses to have that 10-minute conversation ahead of time to say, hey, we're going to test you. Is there any reason why you think that you may fail this? So that way they can give their explanations up front.
yeah.
They can show some accountability up front, even if it's, I know I failed, I made a mistake, all that's done up front. So then that way there's less theories and conspiracy theories at the tail end after the fact.
And yeah, that's the best social model way of approaching it that I've heard. All right. Well, thanks for that info. If anybody wants to get a copy of a policy, you can contact Keith Walters at Building Men for Life, and he'll send you a copy of it.
Randy, did you have something to add?
I was just gonna say that I know at our homes we have had a few false positives, mainly with the fentanyl test. I know people that have taking Boost Bar have failed for fentanyl, and then people that were taking the naloxone had failed for oxy. So in that case, we do give another test as well, but something else we will do if they are very adamant that they haven't used is take them to the hospital, because the hospital can do tests right there as well. And as long as they have insurance, their insurance does cover that. But we will take them to the hospital or to treatment, because if they're not wanting to go to the hospital to get a test, then we know that they're dirty. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
That's helpful. Thanks.
Yep, there's some antibiotics that can test positive when it isn't, and then there's a couple of psychotropic medications that do that, and I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. I want to say Paxil, and there was something else, but then they should show you proof of what medications they're on. Let me see your medications. Or I forgot to tell you, I just finished my antibiotics yesterday, and they have proof of what they were on. So,
Kate, do you have something to add?
I was just going to say that kind of ironic that this subject came up. I just dealt with this just last week. I did a test and the girl was adamant that it was wrong. It came up positive for oxy. And I did some research on it. And the sleep aid that she was taking, which is basically Benadryl diphenhydramine, can cause false positives for oxy. So I did do another test. It did come out clean. And it was like legitimate research too, not just like stuff on Reddit. It was like from reputable sources. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there that she was taking too high of a dose of it, so it was building up in her system. So so just throwing that out there too. Just that's it.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me was the cost of the blood test. I was told that they're $300. I have no idea whether that's accurate or not, but at $300, that's a significant cost. And so that's why my thought was, if you're going to have a policy, you might want to consider having the resident pay for that at $300. He's the person or she's the person that's challenging it. And put that in the agreement on day one, so they know that coming on day one, it's like, if you test positive, you want to contest it, it's going to cost you $300. It's going to cost you whatever it is. And you're going to need to go down and have a blood draw within, promptly within 24 hours or something like that.
I was just gonna ask, Brandy, was it you that had said like insurance would pay for that if you bring them to the hospital? Do they do that just on site? Like if they have, say, state insurance, they'll just do that?
So in the cases that we've dealt with it, they will. Most of the clients just will go in there and request it, and they will do it. We haven't had any issues where they had not. We are right now, we are like attempting to like partner with Millennium, I want to say, where we can test the urine and send it off as well. And insurance will pay for that, but that takes days to come back. But I know at the hospital, anytime that somebody's went up there with the lab, it takes a little bit to come back, right? So at the hospital, anytime they went up there and requested it, it comes back before they leave the hospital.
And it's covered. That's great. That's good news. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that would be my next question would be, if it does take several days to get back, do you allow the individual to remain in the home, even though they tested positive, but maybe they're not presenting under the influence of anything? Obviously, they're presenting under the influence. I would think you want them gone, but has anybody run into that?
Usually how quickly we respond normally has to do with what you kind of mentioned. Are they presenting themselves in a way that they're high or underneath the fluence, leading to disruption in the culture? Or is this someone just through random drug testing that doesn't present themselves as high and they're not being disruptive? And that's how we determine how quickly we have to respond or how aggressively we have to respond.
Stephanie, did you have something to add?
I was gonna say for some of our multi-drug tests, we'll get a false positive. So we have actually gotten a few individual drug tests for certain drugs that are more commonly false positive, and that usually will come back giving us whether it is a negative or a positive. It's a little bit of a different sensitivity. So that has been helpful to take care of a few of ours, especially if it's medication related.
So there's some that you just keep on hand because it's a common thing for certain ones to test?
Fentanyl has been one that we've gotten more false positives on, and so we've kept individual tests for that. And also sometimes our alcohol test comes back a little not always great, so we have individual ones for that too.
Okay.
I got one more question. I heard somebody say that insurances cover that. Is that Medicaid?
So most of the clients that we have, they are covered under Medicaid. I haven't ran across one person that doesn't, that has like private insurance. So they all come in here either because we will help them set up their Medicaid too. So if they don't already have it. So everybody I've ran into has Medicaid.
So have you guys planned it all for this? Probably, if not full removal, at least very difficult policy that's coming that's going to remove a lot of people off Medicaid.
So we have not. And I will say that even like the hospital part, that's not in our, that's not in our, I guess, our policy. That's up to their discretion whether they want to leave or they really want to prove that they're innocent. So that's not even something we have in writing. It's just an idea that we put out there to them, because otherwise the options are you have to leave the home. I mean, either which way, if they test dirty, they have to leave the home until they can prove otherwise, or they can come back clean.
Okay. I thought that you work at a hospital. I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
Great.
I've got one last thing, and then I'll let it go to the balance of the folks on the panel. But one of the issues that came up actually this morning, we were talking about length of stay. Is there a maximum length of stay? And that should be something that a resident or potential resident or a family member of a potential resident would be interested in knowing. There are some operators that I think have like a 90-day or 120-day length of stay maximum. I know there are others that have no maximum. It's all 100% dependent upon the individual. But my thought was it'd be good if we could canvass all of our operators and add that bit of identifying information onto the MARR website. So when they come and look at your home, they'll be able to say, okay, in addition to knowing the population served and the costs and whether they have handicap, also it'd be interesting to know if they have a maximum length of stay.
I'll be reaching out to each individual operator over the next couple weeks just to verify. I know what most of them are, but what it'll say is next to your organization, it'll say up to. So it won't just say 90 days, it'll say up to 90 days because, hey, things happen, right? If something happens, they break the rules, they're not going to be able to stay there the whole 90 days. Same thing with 3 months or up to 2 years. I think it's important, Jeff, I think it's important that they're aware. Maybe if they're looking for a place, they're not going to necessarily want to go someplace where they know after 3 months, I got to find another place to go. So they might choose something that says up to 2 years. So again, just another tidbit of information that when people are looking for a place to stay, we want to give them as much information about the program as possible. And we always ask everybody, he always asks everybody to write a little blurb about your program. So if ever you want to update what you're saying on the site, what it says about your program, please reach out to Kayla and let her know. Right, Kayla? And then, or would they, okay, and then Kayla could change that for you. So things happen, things change, systems change. So be sure you look at what it says on the website under your organization. All the organizations are under its alphabetical order of county. So read what it says under your organization and let Kayla know if you want to tweak that. Anybody have any questions about that?
It's also automatically required for your renewal to update that. A lot of people don't update it, but it is good to make sure you at least go on the website once a year and make sure all of that information is still correct. Because sometimes we forget to update things too. So just to verify that everything's on the up and up, and before you click submit, that'd be great.
Great.
Kate, did you have a question?
I was just in our organization, I think is it a MARR best practice or that it's resident driven?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is okay. All right. So
That's not the way it is everywhere. You know,
Okay.
some places, they're only allowed to stay as long as there's funding. And so maybe funding is only for 90 days. So the person has to leave after 90 days. In some places, there's supposed to be a plan, you know, like a gentle handoff. That doesn't always happen. And then what can often happen is it's a revolving door, right? If there's no place, obviously people need longer support than 90 days. But if they don't have another place to go for the rest of their journey, a lot of times they just go, they're back where they came from, they start using, and it's a revolving door. So you got to figure out a way to stop the revolving door and make sure that people have an option to stay longer. So, for example, if your organization, they can only stay up to 90 days, or as long as they can stay is 6 months, then make sure you're reaching out or give them information. Hey, you know what? Ours ends at 90 days or ends at 6 months, but here's a couple operators, or here's the MARR list that you can look at and call. And so there's a gentle handoff maybe to another operator that allows them to stay longer, another certified operator. So, Jeff, you want to talk about the NAR conference? The deadline, I think, was to sign up for their
Sure. It's in September. I think it's the 15th or thereabouts, but it's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's in Sandusky, Ohio, which is about 15 minutes, 15 miles east of Cleveland. We are going to, I expect to have about 500 to 600 people there. There's the speakers are fantastic. It's going to be Dr. David Best again. Dr. Keith Humphreys from Stanford. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to speak to him or listen to him rather, but he's he is somebody who's been in the recovery space for like 30 or 40 years. And he is somebody who's spent a lot of time researching AA and the effects of AA. We're also going to be having Patrick Kennedy, who's on the NAR advisory board. He'll be there. I would encourage anybody that has any interest or even thought about either going or sending a staff person there to go on the NAR online website. It's NARR online.org. And we'll have information in terms of how you can register. You can get a deal at the hotel, and the hotel is less than 200. I think it's like $180 a night, something like that. So it's not outrageously expensive. It's within driving distance. This will be the 7th or 8th NAR conference I've been to, and I've learned something new each time I've gone. So I would encourage anybody that's got the time and the funds to come to go on NAR online, register, come to the conference, and either I or Catherine will buy you a cup of coffee.
Jeff will.
Only if you're in Cleveland, I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
I think the 25th of this month, I'm not positive, the 25th is the deadline, right, Jeff? If you want to get the discounted rate.
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay, and then the hotels usually fill up pretty quickly. So you want to check into that too as soon as you can. So you get a discounted rate.
Yeah, the deal with this one was it's at a water park. And it's in September, so it'll be at the end of the year. That's how we were able to get a good price on the rooms and have a large enough space where we didn't have to be confined to like a 300-person event in a hotel somewhere. So the food prices are going to be good. It's going to be family friendly, and say that 3 times. Yeah. And if you're real brave, take your swimming trunks there and you can go swimming.
Awesome. Anything else, Jeff, you want to talk about?
I really am all talked out.
I thought so. I thought so.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
I wanted to introduce the operator of the month this month. This month is Paula's house in Monroe. Lisa Young is the contact for that. Lisa, congratulations. You want to talk to us a little bit about Paula's house and what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. We are excited and appreciative to be the operator of the month. Paula's House is recovery housing for women, and they can bring their minor children with them here. We opened in 2004 and could help 5 women at a time. And from the beginning, when Paula started the house in 2004, she wanted to be able to help kids, but we couldn't find a space. And at that time, she really had a fight with everybody and their brother about opening recovery housing. No one was interested in having, a house next door where there's going to be drug activity going on. But she quickly proved to the city that, that wasn't the case. And they became eventually user friendly with our first location. In 2013, we opened our second home, which we have women without kids here and women with children. And then some women are here and their kids just come and visit. The idea, though, is that kids can come and go whenever they want within curfew rules. And kids being here would be 17 and under. So they still have to be, a minor child. The ladies that come to us would be homeless or otherwise living in a bad situation or not a safe environment for recovery, or even their mental and physical health. About 80% of our ladies have experienced domestic violence at some point, and about 70% have a co-occurring disorder, mental health issue, an eating disorder we've seen. And then the domestic violence aspect as well. We don't really get too many people with severe mental health issues. Community living, at least what we see, isn't really always the best fit for them. So if that sometimes, people end up here when we're probably not the best fit, we do work to find a better place for them. The last thing we want to do is see community living make somebody's mental health, worse off than it was when they got here. So to come to our program, the ladies call for a phone interview. We do an interview, explain all of the rules and what the program looks like, and make sure that we're all on the same page, that they're really interested in what we have to offer. Our program is 1 to 2 years. We ask for a 1-year commitment. We have found that the longer they stay, the more likely they are to stay in recovery outside of our house, and they can stay up to 2 years. We can make an exception beyond 2 years if they're working on housing or something is prohibiting them from otherwise moving. And we find that if they make it to 6 months, they're willing to stay until they really end up with a good housing situation. While here, the ladies attend outpatient treatment in the community, make a lot of community connections to other resources, help them get insurance, find a primary care doctor, a dentist, parenting, get their kids enrolled in school, just whatever the ladies need, not only to help with their recovery, but to help with their life in general. And so it can be better than it was before they got here, definitely, and that they're able to maintain it. We have our program is set up in phases, and each phase, for lack of a better term, their level of freedom increases. And the final phase of our program is actually when the ladies are living in their own housing, but they're still coming back here for supportive services for 6 months. And they can make that longer if they want to. But while here and in that 6 months, they meet with a peer recovery coach, a case manager. We have a family coach on staff that works with the women and the kids, and just the kids in general, on whatever issues that may be. We have, children that have mental health issues, behavioral issues, sometimes developmental things going on. So just whatever we can do to help the kids thrive and help their moms learn how to parent them sober or parent them at all for the first time, which happens a lot of times as well. And then, as I said, that fourth phase lasts for 6 months, and they meet with a peer recovery coach, show that they're, paying their bills, maintaining housing, and going to outside meetings. Recovery meetings and supports are part of our program in general, anywhere from 5 meetings a week when they're here, and then we let it drop down a little bit to three meetings when they're in their own housing. And one of the things we started doing that I like to share that really helped people start meeting goals is, have something tangible. We started using a barometer for the ladies to set a savings goal or an employment goal or a school goal. And then they would track it with their case manager each week or every other week when they met. And it really helped people see how saving money towards something was doable. And when they reached the top, they felt like it was okay to pull the trigger on whatever that purchase was. Whether it's we've had people pay off old fines or court fees, getting a car, paying off old utility bills, anything that will help them be more successful when they're outside of Paula's house. Oh, and something new we started for the kids also is some prevention programming for the kids. We kind of have a captive audience with them. And after a while, they really love coming into staff offices for all sorts of things, whether it's messing with the copy machine or just pointing at the pictures of other kids that have been here and trying to figure out who they are. So, in addition to a family coach, we have a child prevention specialist who works with the kids also. It just kind of gives them another a safe person to talk to, and then works on some coping skills and talks to them about school and things that they're struggling with in Paula's house and outside of Paula's house. Our program is primarily grant funded. Once the ladies do have a source of income, they do pay program fees, which is no more than 30% of their net income, and it maxes at $450 a month. Very rarely do we have anybody who's paying $450 just based off of the jobs they're able to get. And is there anything else that might sum it up?
So the grant lasts up to 2 years for individuals?
The grants do not last up to 2 years. So depending, usually somewhere between 6 months and a year, depending on what funding we have available, they would start paying program fees. We really don't discharge anybody or ask them to leave if they're not able to pay. We haven't had to do that yet. So hopefully with changes in funding and all that stuff, we won't have to do that. And most of the time, the ladies are excited to pay at least the first couple of months. After that, they start thinking about permanent housing and what does that look like, especially if they're paying on the higher end. But if they're paying $50 or $60 a month, you're not going to live anywhere else where all your utilities are paid and you have internet access for, that low of money. So
they're not going to pay $600 a month.
They are not. They are not.
$1,200 and up. So, wow, what a gift! What a blessing. I have one question is,
sure.
You talked about only minors could be there with the mothers. So, I talked with an operator a couple years ago, but there's hormones, you get the teenage boys and then you got teenage girls living there. How do you handle that kind of situation to make sure they're not,
yeah, I know what
doing
you're
what
saying.
They shouldn't do. Yeah. Is there what kind of monitoring to make sure that that's not? And I also heard a story. Somebody told me that there was actually, again, so a different operator, but they had said that they found that this one teenage boy who was 17 was very flirtatious with a lot of the young mothers that were there, and so they were having issues with the mothers being attracted to some of these Anyway, so
Yeah.
how do you handle to make sure that you don't have those kind of issues?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. We do have a policy in place that there can be no relationships between a woman and a child who's here, or kids who are here, or kids who live here, kids who live here and or visit here. So there's a policy. So if something happens, they can't stay here because we don't want that to happen.
Right.
We have been fortunate enough that we haven't had an issue with that. But the moms just really keeping track of their kids, even the teenagers. So as the families that are here, they are in like the mom and kids are in one room. So the mom would at least should know what's going on with the kid. Like they're sleeping in the same space. I guess if there's a will, there's a way, and we're just kind of counting to everybody to mind their P's and Q's. We haven't had any. I guess we've had a 16-year-old boy who's visited, but most of the time the boys have been a little bit younger than that. We've had older girls who they're fine, but they're really not interested in living here. If they will do anything to not be here. It's really tough for teenagers. If their friends know where they're at, they don't want the bus to pick them up out in front. Most of the time, teenagers, the moms try making an alternative plan for them and just have them come and visit, so they're not feeling awkward or out of place.
And your home it's more institutional, where it's just a very large building. You have
Correct.
cameras, correct? And there's 24-hour staffing.
So we have our primary staff is here business hours Monday through Sunday, really. But then we have a house manager who's a senior resident who's in just reports to me if there's any issues that need to be addressed. And I live like 5 minutes away, so I'll be here coming to address those should there be anything.
How long have you been there, Lisa?
I've been here 9 years as operations manager. I came on to be prepared to take over for Paula when she decides to retire, which she's working on that now. She's not here very often, but not official or anything. And then I was on our board of directors for 7 years before that. So I've been hanging in there for a long time.
Nice. Well, I think Paula's been working on retirement for the last 5+ years, hasn't she?
Yeah, since before COVID.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, Lisa?
Sure.
Do you know Ginger Stevens? She runs the Joppa House in Charlevoix.
I do not.
You two should talk to each other. She has 2 homes up there, moms with kids. One of the things that she was able to successfully get was reaching out to her PIHP, which was the Gaylord facility, and they granted her, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50,000 for peer recovery coaching, because they have specific funding sources for mothers with children. The other thing is, if you talk to her, it'd be good to network with her. And there are also some other MARR affiliates. I think one was in Texas and the other one was in Oklahoma. And they're trying to come up with a subcommittee of, here are practitioners like yourself that deal with specialized circumstances, moms with children. And then the other thing, 2 other things. One, I was going to mention, she has a rule that says no post-pubescent boys can stay in the residence.
Can you spell that?
Pubescent? Yeah. And then the thing that actually got my attention was you mentioned Child Protective Services, which I don't know if that is, are you talking about CPS, the people that come with the police hats on and say, I want to deal with
snatching your kids?
Yeah.
I didn't mention them, but we do work with them.
So, okay, so you have, I just wanted to know what the interplay was between you as an operator, the kids that are children of the residents, and then CPS. I wanted to get an idea of how that worked.
So whenever there's CPS involvement, we do reach out to the CPS worker, the foster care worker, and make sure we're all on the same page as far as what is the plan for the kids. If they are, I mean, just what is the goal really? We did have a time when moms involved with CPS or foster care, there was really a push to get into their own housing, and sometimes they wouldn't even give them visitation until they had their own place. And once we could explain to them and have them come and take a look and see, like, there's really a benefit to having kids in a controlled environment with their moms who have not been moms sober, and the benefit, to that. And so we were able to work with them. So we are now a safe place for kids to be returned home to, or have unsupervised or supervised visitation. We don't do the supervision for the visits. They can send someone here, but we do facilitate that and just make sure they know what our expectations are as far as CPS foster care, and also people involved with the court system on probation or parole. So we're all working towards the same goal, and we don't have someone on the outside saying, oh, you need housing, and we're saying, no, we need you to stay here for 2 years.
Right. Right. And the only difference is, and it makes sense because you got the kids involved, is that you need to go meet with the CPS worker and actually educate them about what it is that you can offer and how that can benefit the whole family together. Because I know the average, when I was doing defense work 30 years, 40 years ago, it was always like, you can't have your kids back until you do the following A, B, C, D.
Right.
It's like, you need to get a job, you need to get a separate house. And it's like, no, that really doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And you mentioned funding. So we were able to work with CMHPSM who funds us, and we were able, well, through this year we've spent all the money, we were able to have funding that gave the moms with their kids who were pregnant or reunifying some extra time where they covered their housing here, so they didn't have to worry about looking for a job right away. We did have a grant that covered peer recovery supports, but that is now Medicaid billable, I guess, under a block grant. So our case manager right now is doing the peer recovery training through MDHHS, so she can be certified with MDHHS, so we can bill through Medicaid for that. But CMHPSM will take care of the billing as far as that goes. I will say, being funded that way is far less than it was when it was just a grant that covered my peer recovery coach, and I don't know, 50% less work that way than having to do it the way we'll be doing it come October 1st.
A lot of changes coming.
It's a lot of changes, but we have to make changes if we're going to stay open. And so we're always looking for other funding streams, and not necessarily tied to recovery, but tied to housing in general. So if there's a way we can make it work, we're going to make it work.
Well, network with Ginger. Her last name is Stevens. She's a pastor. She and her daughter run 2 recovery houses. They're residential in Charleroi.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, several operators actually that run women's and children home. Crystal Barnett is right in town, Grand Rapids, and I know there's several others, but I saw her on there. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Lisa.
You're welcome. Thank
you for all you do. And it's I think that's a big reason why a lot of women don't get the help they need. They don't know, where am I going to go with my kids?
Right. Exactly.
So it's important to have places like that. So
may I say something? I can't find my hands emoji on here. So
that's good enough. Go like that.
But Paula, yeah, I first and foremost, thank you so much for sharing about your residents. Congratulations on the nomination. And I am really hoping that you and I can connect on some level. Just, I too, like Catherine said, have a sober living home here in Grand Rapids called A Mother's Touch. And but our kiddos are up to the age of 5 with their moms, and we can have up to 5, like I heard you say you could. But I would really like to connect with you. I kind of got excited hearing you talk, like, okay. So If that's possible, I can maybe put my email or phone number in the chat, but
I'll do the
thank you
same. I'll put mine in the chat also.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things that we've started doing. And I love hearing about your guys' programs and celebrating what you guys do. And that way you guys can get to know what each other does and get to know each other more on a personal level also and connect. So that's been really great. Thank you so much for sharing, Lisa.
Kelly, what would you like to share about RECCAP?
Just real briefly, so as everyone is aware, we are onboarding with the new Behave Health system. Heard great feedback from all of the operators, loving the new options that are available to folks within that system, notifications, things of that nature. So right now we're working on getting our second set of operators up and going onboarding. We've got everyone in the system that was in the system prior to the changeover. So working hard on getting folks where they need to be able to get their evaluations into the system. One thing I did want to mention is there was essentially a proposal sent out by Behave, just kind of letting you know the value for what you're receiving for free. And they do need to have that back signed by operators. Right now, they're just kind of waiting until we hear back. I'm going to be following up with anyone that we haven't received back from starting tomorrow. And just giving you a heads up, hey, if we could get this signed, that would be great. And again, it's just letting you know you have a zero balance. This is how much it could be, if you were paying it individually, but thankfully the state has been able to cover that for everyone. Like I said, hearing really good feedback from individuals about the functionality in the system. We are having our second community of practice next week, Wednesday. So we are meeting on the third Wednesday, and that will be on the 16th, which is at 3 p.m. as well. And that is for you guys, anyone, that is onboarding. Please bring questions, please bring concerns. Anything that you need to know where it's for you guys to support you in your needs in using the system. So I look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday. Other than that, things are moving forward, doing positive. Evaluations are getting into the system, so it's great to hear. Didn't run into too many bumps in the road, which was really wonderful. So that's gone well. So, and then again, if there's anyone, I know that historically there have been some organizations that have chosen not to use it, please reach out. I'm going to start using or start reaching out to all of the other organizations, not even just the new ones that we've had join us newly certified, but as well as our operators to show you the system again and all the bells and whistles and all the things that it can provide for your organization to streamline processes for you and basically take you out of paper and pencil and get you into electronic. And that's just been a great thing. No paper, no ink to print. So be looking forward to that. Look forward to seeing everyone next week. And again, if you ever need anything, you can put a ticket in to Behave or reach out to myself, text, email. I'm always happy to help.
What time did you say next week, Kelly? Wednesday at what time?
3 o'clock.
I'll put that in the post-meeting follow-up email too for everybody.
Thank you.
As a reminder.
Thank you. Kayla, do you have anything that you want to bring up? Got a few minutes left.
I do not this week. I definitely covered my entire list last month. So if anyone has questions about that list, definitely let me know. But that's all I have.
How about you, Wally? Anything you want to mention? You're muted.
Yeah. I just want to follow up to the question of all tax dollars, the PA2 money. That money is, if you're not aware, that money is taxes that are collected on an annual basis, and at the end of the year, they come back to the county. All those tax dollars that were paid in that county for alcohol and whatever come back to the county. And The only requirement was that those dollars are supposed to be spent on SUD treatment and support services. There's no way of, and this comes from my time that I spent with the coordinating agency, where we would receive that money at the end of the year for 8 counties, and then we would send that money out to the counties proportionately, depending on how much was collected from that particular county over the course of the year. But there was no requirement for any follow-up in terms of how they're spending the money or any of that kind of stuff. And I just mention that because I think we mentioned this one time ago, probably last year, that was an opportunity for you to check with your county and find out what they're doing with alcohol tax dollars that come back to them and what they're spending it on. And I don't know if that's a source of revenue for any of you or not, but you have to check with it. And the money did not go to the CMHs. The money went to the county itself. So the county government is who you would have to talk with. And yeah. So anyway, that's it.
Nice. Anyone have any questions real quick before we head into the lessons learned? That's at 4 o'clock. Was it helpful? Some of the stuff we talked about today? Hopefully it was helpful for everybody. Don't forget about the conference. It'd be great if everybody could go. I think it's almost $100 cheaper if you actually per person if you sign up early. So go to the MARR website and look into registering. That would be great. And hopefully for most of you, it's within driving distance. So I know MARR's looking at driving a couple vehicles down there, so our team can go this year. I don't know anyone bringing a swimsuit, but it would be fun. Oh, Kelly was going to bring a swimsuit. So, well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Glennis or Glennie, where is she? She still has Glennie on her name. There she is, Glennie. Glennie will be doing the lessons learned with me here in a few minutes. Do you have anything you want to add real quick, Glennis?
No. No, that was a good meeting.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anybody wants to bother Glennis, call her. We got an Ann Arbor office.
Yep. She
You
loves
need
to be
call her,
bothered,
make an
like
appointment to be there, but
yeah, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning is her favorite.
preferably Sunday mornings about 6 a.m.
No, that would be Jeff. That would be Jeff.
Exactly.
Any morning at 6 a.m., Jeff's available.
Just about ready to go to sleep. Yeah.
All right. For those who aren't staying on, thank you so much. And for those that are staying, just stay put and we'll go right into the lessons learned.